Hello, guys. This is April Rogerson, the Contract Slayer with the Slay Your Day podcast, where we talk about all things unique and interesting to help you slay your day. And today, we got a little interesting thing going here because sometimes y'all like to tussle about this dating. We have Janelle Darcy here, and I want you to pronounce your. I feel like I know it, but I don't want to mess it up. Pronounce the name of your company.
Crescentric.
Okay. See,
yes.
I might have threw a little T or S or something else in there. Put a little spice. So Crescentric.
Crescentric. It's very simple. Crescent, centric, put it together. Crescentric.
Yes, but you know what we do because we'd be like down to the
Hold
Walmart and the Kroger's.
We get confused. Okay, right. Concentrics. Okay.
Yeah. So thank you, Janelle, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You and I met at a networking event that was very political focused. It was supposed to be.
Yes.
But we wound up having a whole little relationship roundtable.
Yes.
And I said, you got to come on.
Yes.
I don't even know how we got there.
I don't either.
So organic, but it was a good conversation.
Yes.
It was a really good conversation. Yes. So tell us a little bit more about you and your background, and then let's get us up to how you got to where you are in terms of Crescentric and how that came to be.
Okay. So as she mentioned, my name is Janelle Darcy. I have been a licensed marriage and family therapist and practicing therapy for almost a decade now. And so in my work, I work with people who have mental health disorders like anxiety, depression, bipolar.
You started in middle school?
No. I'm much older than I look.
I have been counseling people since the 8th grade.
Okay. Because they needed something in 8th grade, I'm telling you. But I'm much older than I look. But I get that all the time.
Right, yeah.
And I personally forget how young I look. And I'm like talking to people and they're like, how old are you?
Right, yeah.
So anyways, working with people with mental health disorders and also couples. And so a lot of times when couples will come in, I would be looking at them like, a lot of the issues y'all are bringing in are individual issues that are now creating these couple issues. And so I started to think, how could I be a little bit more useful within the relationship field outside of when things start to get rocky? And that's what led me into looking at the dating scene and becoming a dating coach to help people really understand who they are so that way they're able to pick better partners. Because if I know who I am and I'm out here dating, I could be at a much more success if I have that healthy foundation from the beginning versus coming in and I'm full of toxicity and then I end up attracting the toxicity into my life and then I end up dating the toxicity and then I'm like, everybody trash. So that's how I got here. That's what I heard. The dating pool got pee.
They throwing up in the dating pool. Yes. What's going on in the pool? Because I've been married for a very long time.
Yes.
Like long. So that was part of the conversation.
Right. Yes.
Because I said, I know that I'm far removed from the dating scene, but what's going on out there?
Yes.
And I think what you mentioned then and now, part of some of it is not just our parents, but our upbringing amongst each other, because we are playing a very big part in my mind frames. Like our peers are in your ear and helping you, or in some ways sabotaging your mindset about how they approach relationships and dating.
Yes, correct.
So let's bring those two things together, because one of them talking about my background and saying I worked in social work for a long time. So part of what you're saying is very real, because people have all sorts of things going on in their background generationally, experiences and traumas that they have in their childhood, and then they bring that and they add on, right? Because they didn't just stop with mama's trauma and grandma's trauma. Now they just took some of theirs and put it on top of their child, their son or their daughter. And that was something else we talked about.
Right.
So how are you finding in this dating space of trying to help people overcome some of those traumas and some of those things that they have generationally, in so many ways of people saying, I don't know, I haven't known anything else but this.
Right. Yeah, so that's what a lot of my program is about you taking that inward look into self and gaining that self-awareness. And also to get a little bit of education too, because like you said, if I've only seen things this way, if grandma taught mama and then mama taught me, that's all I see until someone says, baby, that's not okay. And so,
say what now?
Baby, that's not okay.
Say one more time.
Baby, that's not okay.
Okay. Not okay.
And then it makes people really understand, even the way people communicate. Like I was working with a group of girls the other day, and a lot of them, you know, when it comes to dating, they're very passive in terms of communicating their needs. And I think as women, too, we kind of fall victim to that because of how society has raised us to be a little bit more passive. Mm-hmm. But I had to talk to them and teach them, like, you got to speak up sometimes about what you need. But that was just for this particular group. Now, some people can be overly communicative in terms of, like, what they need.
And how they
communicate it, where it can be very aggressive, which can be a turnoff at times. And that's on both sides. And so it's really taking an inward look at self. But also the other thing I talk to my people about is also understanding the other side. Because if you don't have any understanding of who you're dating, if you don't know anything about that side, then you're going to draw all these conclusions from social media, from what your mama said about men ain't this, men ain't that.
Or sometimes the dad.
Or the dad
they say, my daddy told me.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so all you know is a negative understanding of this other side. And so it's about changing your perspective, not only about self, but also about other people, the people, the field, the pool that you're trying to date within.
Yeah. And what you just said is important, but I also think social media has helped create this very narrow scope of the world.
Yes.
And it's very insular and very one note. Even when you talk about like what's the man that died? Kevin Samuels,
yes.
You're in this vacuum and you're only wanting to see it from that perspective.
Right.
Or you're on the outside of that vacuum and you're attacking that perspective, right?
Well, if I've been hurt and then I'm hearing somebody else that is communicating and saying the things that I'm already thinking, is just reaffirming like, because that's all I know is that hurt. Instead of going to go get a healing, you just finding somebody else that's just reaffirming it and making it worse. And so a lot of people, the hate that they feel about somebody else, like sometimes I'll be looking at stuff on social media like, y'all really hate men, or y'all really hate women, like
y'all really hate each other.
Like, and I'm like, y'all, we have got to get it together. We have got to bring the love back into our relationships and how we talk to one another. And a lot of times love is missing because people want to go viral. You know, I'm looking for the next clickbait. I want the most likes. So I'm going to say the most hateful things. And that's just not how it should be.
Right. And it begets this notion of, we're speaking to Janelle Darcy here from Press-Centric, the dating guru. It brings this kind of, again, to your point about the love. And I had a conversation with, I think we talked about this. My son, he's 16. And I was saying there's no love songs.
Yes, there's no, and we used to have that back in the 90s. They used to be begging, you know. That's why we love 90s R&B.
Yes, there was this notion of like, I cannot live without having this love in my life.
Yes.
And now there is this so to your point about kind of speaking up for yourself and not being passive, there has been all these moments in time of overcorrection.
Yeah.
So we had, you know, how many of our moms, grandmas, whomever are saying, you know, make sure you're independent, you take care of yourself, you can do things for yourself, you don't need a man. Your dad, grandpa, uncles, whomever is like, make sure you don't need no man.
Right.
And that was such an overcorrection.
It was overcorrect. Because there's a piece of it that it's like, okay, yes, you know, in terms of that security, you want to make sure that you can do for yourself. But like you said, it's the overcorrection of like, to the point where it's like, I don't need nobody. And then I behave in that way. So I'm very dismissive and rejecting if somebody tries to even be in my space.
Right.
Or if they come into my space and they say something about, you know, hey, you know, I noticed that you do X, Y, and Z, and you automatically like, get out of my life. Bye.
Right.
I don't need it.
I don't need you telling me nothing about what I'm doing.
Right, exactly.
If you're not, so that brings us up into this kind of city girl, Megan Thee Stallion, whatever era where, okay, I'm not going to say that I don't need no man, but I only need you for this and this.
Right.
So
sex and money.
Sex and money. Give me the bag.
And then I'm done. Bye.
What are they telling you? To give them the head and the spread and all these other things and then get the hell up out of here. So that's the next extreme of overcorrection. It's not. So now you have, and now going back to what you said about seeing it from both perspectives. Yeah. Because if this is our approach of saying, all right, I'm not going to say I don't need you, but these are the things I need you for. But if the guy is kind of like, well, I'm receiving that you're saying you only need me for these two things, and either I'm going to rise to the occasion for those two things, or I'm going to use you in return.
Exactly.
So how do we course correct that? Because I'm about to talk about the new correction that I've been seeing.
Okay.
And it's a little extreme as well.
Oh,
but
Lord. Okay.
how do we get these two? Because now they're quite far apart. They're very far apart.
Yes.
And I think when there was this portion of, I don't need you, men still had some semblance of trying to be like, you do need me for something, don't you?
Right.
They were asking for it.
So I think a part of it too is what women I think are intending to say is, I don't need a man to take care of me. And I'm gonna break that down for a quick second. Our only understanding of what it means to be taken care of is from a childlike perspective. So when we were growing up, our parents took care of us. So now that we're full grown adults, we don't need nobody to take care of us because we're viewing it from a childlike mindset. But that's not what I don't think men are wanting to say or communicate. It's more so like, I want to be there as a support for you, and vice versa. We are, when it comes to needs and taking care of, it is, I want to be there as a support for you. I want to be there as a friend to you, as a lover. Like, that's the mutual exchange that we're looking for. It's not supposed to be the childlike thing, but that's what ends up happening, because then men can be possessive and it's like, and controlling in terms of like, well, this is what I want you to do, and it's like, no. And so then there comes that contention between the two.
And there's two sides to that, right? Because what you just said is important from a childlike perspective, right? Because there are there's all these women who's saying, I'm not trying to be your mother.
Right.
And there's all these men who are just like, I'm not trying to be your father.
Yes.
But the care that happens in a mutual relationship is somewhat parent-like, but it is not parenting, right?
Correct.
So there's a level of nurturing and understanding and things like that you will get from your mom, but it's different when you're getting it from your wife, your spouse, your girlfriend.
Exactly.
Those affirming words. And I'll give an example of that. Sometimes when I talk to my son, he's like, you're just saying that because you're my mom, right? But when you hear it from your significant other, you're not thinking to yourself, you're only saying that because you're my boyfriend or my girlfriend. It feels different.
Yeah.
And I think that if we can disconnect those two things in that way of where it's coming from and who's giving it to you, it will mean something different.
Yes.
Just because they're similar don't mean they're the same.
Correct. Yeah.
You know? So I think what you're saying is extremely important in the lens of who's receiving, who's giving, where's it coming from, what's their mindset when they're giving it to you.
Right.
So just like we'll say food, and even men, and this is not, we're women, so we're talking about it from a women's lens,
right.
But even men who are starting to say, because sometimes we're learning this stuff from our own mothers, right? So they're learning these things just like we got taught certain things about not needing. Oh, we're going to teach you how to cook and clean and do these things so you don't need no woman.
Yeah.
And we cannot be teaching the kids that are coming after us these tools or these skills so that they don't need each other.
Right. It's really, you need to learn this as a basic human.
Right.
Like, that's really it. Not
in order to be a human in this world, you should know how to clean and feed yourself. Okay.
Yes, exactly. That's it. That's all we asking for. But because people do phrase it that way of, I'm gonna teach you this so you don't need but in reality it's really because I need to fend for myself. I have to know how to cook. I need to know how to clean. I need to know basic human living.
Right. And when we're framing it that way, it turns it into a negative thing.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So if I say, if a man is now framing, I can get any old body to cook for me or clean for me or do these things, so why do I need you? And if a woman is saying, well, I could go get my own job and go get my own this, so why do I need you? It's taking away the care piece.
Yeah.
And again, to your point earlier, it's taking away the love.
Yeah.
I'm cooking for you and I'm nurturing you and I'm nourishing you and I'm feeding you because I love you.
Yes.
Not because you're not capable of doing it yourself.
Right.
Not because you're not capable of, you can open up a back of Cracker Jack and go to bed,
right? Right.
You could work 50-hour shifts if you want to be able to be sustained as a woman because you don't want to have to need the man, but he's doing it because he loves you and cares about you. He's not doing it from this, and I'm not going to say because we both know men and women do have these power struggles at
Yes.
times. So I'm not going to say that all men and women are not doing it from these, spaces, but just your general basic why we do the things we're doing.
Right.
It should be and had been in love.
Yes. Yes.
In love. It was
at the
it
end
was
of the day,
love
it was
to
because
provide,
of the love.
you know.
Yes.
So now we're at this next level of self-correction that is all the rage on social media.
Yeah. What is it?
Soft life.
Oh,
I want soft life.
I don't know a lot about it. Honestly, I've seen it,
Uh-huh.
but I don't know a lot about it. What is it?
So I don't want to, because interesting enough, there's some level of, what is this word that they like to, this buzzword of, dang it, why is it escaping me right now? Dang it. I'm mad this word is going out of my head, where they're like, you're taking over somebody else's phrasing for your own, right?
Okay.
And I'm mad that the word that people use this for it is escaping me. But in any case, this is supposed to be a like Nigerian
Which
or
is what I heard,
African,
right. Mm-hmm.
Perspective of life. And their perspective about it was kind of this idea of not working hard, like that kind of thing.
Okay.
Not necessarily this leisurely, I'm sitting around getting spa treatments and
Okay, yeah, because that's
all
what
that
I've been
stuff,
seeing.
right?
Okay.
So from their perspective, it means something totally different. And I don't want to speak for any African nation that this is their term. But
Yeah.
so they're definitely like, wait, what?
Yes.
That's not soft life.
Right.
But in its American iteration, and specifically our cultural iteration, we're now saying, I don't want to work hard anymore. I don't want to take on all these burdens anymore. I want this soft life, and I want a man that's going to give me this soft life. And I think that this is the next level of overcorrection.
Yeah.
Because again, most men are kind of say, wait, what? I thought we was just doing.
Because again, if we were doing the whole independent woman,
Right.
y'all was over here. Now we going to the next extreme, like you said. Y'all was hard working. Now y'all like, we ain't doing none of this.
And I definitely don't want this to come across as us bashing women, but I will say that we are leading the charge in a lot of these changes.
We are,
and this is
yeah.
something that we talked about because most men are still so confused.
Most men are still, unfortunately, mindset-wise, when it comes to dating, stuck in
Yes,
like
they're
the
like,
50s and 60s.
I don't know what we're doing anymore.
Well, right, because a lot of them, they want the traditional
Yes.
stuff, but even though we have evolved into the modern world, so they have still not caught up until in terms of what's
And then we
happening.
keep moving it on them, right? God damn it! I thought we was just.
We still trying to
So
catch
you
them
don't.
up.
So you don't want to work no more. I thought we was doing this 50-50. I'm not in charge thing no more. So
Right.
now we're here.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I was seeing it on social media, but I didn't know a lot about it. I didn't really look into it either.
Yeah.
But I agree, it is definitely an overcorrection again. I totally get it. Like I don't want to work neither.
Right.
But
Right.
considering where again the times that we're in, it's difficult to not work, honestly, because the average American cannot sustain on their own. It's a two household income that is best in terms of moving forward. So for me personally, I'm all about two's better than one, period. Even if you make really good money, if you meet somebody else who makes really good money, that's better than where you're at. And so considering the times that we're in, it's very hard to maintain that. Not to bash men, but men, the average black man is making $40,000.
Right.
I don't know what.
So
Go ahead.
I'm with you, and I wonder if this creates a bigger separation. So there's one level of the men who get it, and the men who've been waiting for this return of the soft feminine woman. It's like, yes, where do I sign up? But then there are the other men who are saying, all that you're doing seems like way too much for me. And I don't know how this will reframe the man's mind, and how long will it take? Because these different changes that we're going through, and as women, I think even within relationships, most of the time it's the woman's evolution that is causing some type of shift, right? good or bad. The woman is evolving. And this is not any slight on men. Men are very compartmentalized overall in their thinking. They know what they like. They like the same things for 20, 30 years. I go to this place to get my hair cut at 8 a.m. sharp, and I go this place to go play ball. So there's not very much movement that they're looking to make, you know? And a lot of times they don't even understand why you're even looking to make any type of move. They're like, what do you mean? I thought we was fine.
Right, right. Which I do think men have got to do more in that aspect too.
They do.
Because as humans, we are evolving. We should be evolving. This life is all about growth. And so for men, it is still about evolving with that mindset, because what a lot of times people are like, oh, people grow apart, which is true. Because if someone is growing in this way and you still stuck.
Right. And honestly, I definitely agree with that. And that's where the pairing comes into place. And we're talking heterosexual relationships, but this is pairing in general.
Yes.
When you have another person that you're able to bounce life off of, they bring perspectives to you that you had not even been thinking of. And now it's up to you to be open to the perspectives that they're bringing to you.
Yep.
But that's why I said sometimes with single parents, there's singleness in general, you only have your own perspective.
Yes.
And almost always you're going to think what your perspective
is.
Is right.
It's right.
You're not going to argue with yourself. You're not going to argue with yourself. You're like, you know what? You're wrong about that.
Right.
So
looking in the mirror. Right.
It really helps. And you have to really be a super evolved being to be able to even argue with yourself.
Yes.
So when you talk about the introspection that you bring to the table in your sessions, again, we're talking to Janelle Dawson. the thing, she doing a thing over there in Concentric and dating. Being able to put a mirror to someone, and sometimes their unwillingness to even look at themselves means that you have to say the things or bring them to those things that most of us would not do on our own.
Right.
So when you add in this person who, even if they brought it to you and you didn't like it, you would most likely be willing to at least hear it or receive it in some way.
Right.
You may not even say you right. You may take it and say, you know what, he said something about that. So let me.
Because I talk to people all the time. It's not about right or wrong. It's about understanding each other. That's what the result has to be at the end of the day. Or else y'all are going to stay here and stay fighting, having the same arguments if y'all refuse to understand the other perspective. So, yeah.
So what kind of things do you feel like you've been able to, first off, just approach it, and what approach you found has been beneficial to either the singles that you're working with or any couples that you're working with? Because we've just talked about quite a few of the things that people are bringing from their past, and how you've been able to bridge the gap from, yes, that was how mama and grandma did it, but what you said?
That's not okay, baby. That is not okay.
So when you had to tell them, dang girl,
that's not okay.
or he, because again, there are things that they learn from their moms. Men learn from their moms and their grandmothers that, baby, that's not okay.
Yes.
How have you been able to get them to see it?
So one, it has to be a willingness to be able to see it, because that's the thing. Even in therapy, the only way change can happen is if you yourself want to change. I tell people all the time, I can't do this for you. Like, I can give you all the tools and tips and stuff like that, but the only person who can change is you, and you have to be willing to do that. So the people I work with are in a space of willingness to be able to hear, because they like, okay, look, clearly something up. I'm doing something wrong. Working. Something's not working. Yes. So let's talk about it. So they're willing to hear, which I think is really good. But then they also want to know, but is it me? Is it all me? And it's not all the time you, because again, you're getting into a dating pool where people who are looking for a relationship, you got people out here just looking for sex. You got people who just now getting out of relationships, so they really don't want nothing. You got people, it's so many different agendas in the dating pool, which makes it difficult to figure out, how do I, figure out who is who. And a lot of times people don't have conversations up front about it either.
Who is who? Where do I fit into
And where do
this?
I fit into
and
it?
What am I looking for? Because sometimes...
And what am I looking for? And also, if let's just say I go on a date And I'm like, man, I am feeling him. And then he be like, I'm not really here trying to get married. I don't want to let him go because he's so fine and we had a good connection. That's the other problem is people get like, oh my God, I want to be with this person so bad, but our goals are totally different. And so he might be like, well, I mean, I told you what it was, but you sticking around, so I'm gonna take advantage of it. So that's another part of it too.
And I think there is some level of transparency that is happening now that didn't quite happen before. But now there is the idea of, I told you. And you are still here. So what do you want me to do with this?
Right.
And we are having to take ownership of that.
We do.
And again, this is male or female.
Yes.
Now, I will say sometimes as women, our emotions get a little bit more caught up in the situation because, as you mentioned, you're looking at this guy and you done been swimming in the nasty pool for so long.
Exactly.
Like, listen, I just got this lifeguard walked up.
Right.
I cannot just let the lifeguard walk away.
Right.
So,
yes.
With that being said, my son, as I said to you, because that was a big part of our conversation, is how we are, for lack of a better word, training our children coming up, in the conversations that I was saying that I have with him.
Yeah.
And he had someone that he was talking to, and it was this weird kind of, what are we doing? And he asked me, like, what should he do? And I said, well, just kind of see what happens. And he decided that he was just going to ask.
Okay.
And I thought that was interesting because coming from two different generations, it was kind of always this wait and see, go with the flow. Yes. So for him to make a hard line in the stand early on to say, what are we doing?
Yes.
I thought that was really mature of him to do.
Yes.
And I said to him, at the time, I said, I don't know that I would have done that.
Just being honest. You're right, though.
I don't know that I would have done that. I said, there's children, teenagers your age who probably would not have done that. And they're in this confusion stage. And then the other piece that I say about it often when talking to him is that there's a lot of adults who would not feel confident or comfortable doing that.
Yes.
And that's how we get all these situationships.
Correct. Yep.
So
exactly.
The what are we doing conversation hardly ever happens. And even if it does, there's this pressure of defining the relationship.
Yes.
How have you been able to mine that portion of it? Because obviously when someone's talking to you as a dating coach, they're like, I like him, we talk, but I don't know what we're doing. Are you advocating for them to, because some part of it is their individual personality. Like I need to know, I don't need to know, or that.
Right.
But also from a coaching perspective, how are you navigating this situationship space and kind of bringing people to the forefront of what they really want or what they really need?
Right. So I encourage people to have a conversation early on about what it is that I'm looking for. Now, again, like I said, people may be honest and say, this is what it is. I'm looking for a relationship. I try to tell people, steer away from the marriage thing in the first conversation, because
the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, like it's gonna turn the other person off immediately. Like, because it's obvious for in a lot of situations, if you are dating, it is for the purpose of progressing the relationship. But the moment you bring up marriage, people be like, hold up, pump your brakes, okay?
I just met you.
And
all I did was right. We're talking about marriage.
We talking about marriage.
Is it right or left?
Right.
I don't even know.
And I'm over here looking like, is you my husband? Like, just chill out for a second and get to know the person. Yeah. But it is necessary to still make your intentions clear in the beginning. Now, I don't necessarily put a time length on anything. I think it's all about the depth in which your relationship goes. So if you feel like things are starting to get deeper within the context of a relationship, which can happen within 3 weeks, it can happen in 6 months or a year. I don't know.
Right.
That's why I say I don't put no time lengths on it, because, some people be like, well, y'all been talking for 6 months and he better be blah, 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 blah. But in reality, y'all been talking for 6 months about nothing. Y'all ain't had no real conversation. So that's why I don't put time on anything.
Especially today, because a lot of this talking is in the inbox and not true
right.
conversations.
right.
So we're not talking at all, actually.
Exactly.
You send me a message, I send you a message.
Yes.
Why? What is it? WYD? And
right. What you doing? Right.
That is not conversation.
Yes.
So yeah.
So I have 3 things, or the 3 X's that I say is allowed in your relationship. And the 3 X's is you need to constantly be exploring your partner, examining your partner, and experiencing your partner.
Give it to us.
From the beginning to the end, okay?
Give us what those X's mean.
The explore. Okay, so exploring is getting to know that person, constantly asking questions. A lot of times as a relationship continues, people stop exploring. The second part is examining. You want to be able to examine, okay, what we doing? Okay, so going back to how do we know what's going on? Even in the context of marriage, you need to know, you need to examine, how are we doing? What's the good? What's the bad? What's the ugly? Like, let's talk about this. Where are we at in terms of our relationship? So we have to constantly be examining or evaluating to know everything's okay. Or, you know what, baby, this is not going to work.
And in that exploration phase, and I want to go back to that because
explore, examine, experience.
Examine. In the examination phase, are you encouraging them to have that examination conversation, or is this internally you kind of looking at this and saying,
with the other person? It's with self and with the other person. Yes. Because you have, again, it's about being honest about, okay, yes, we have been dating for 6 months, talking for 6 months, whatever. Is this person somebody that I would like to move forward with? Okay. And then if you're honest with yourself, then you can be honest with that other person to come to them and say, okay, now I feel like we're getting real deep in this relationship. I'm really starting to feel you a lot. I like you. You cute or whatever.
Are you saying that to your person, or are you kind of like, what we doing?
right.
I got other people in my Rolodex.
Right.
So let me know, because I could easily take you out.
Yes, no. Right. But just being able to truthfully examine what we're doing, where we're at, and if that person is like, we just chilling. Right. If that's not where you want to be, you got to be honest to be like, all right, thank you for letting me know. I'm gonna move on.
Right. Now, do they move on because they was looking at this guy like he had the life preserver and everything.
Right.
So how ready? Like, what kind of conversations do they need to have with themselves at this point, or before that? Because it needs to happen before you actually have that examination conversation.
Yes.
You need to be having a conversation with yourself and saying, if he says we're just chilling, or if he's not giving the responses that I need, what is my response going to be? How do I proceed? Because I think as women, what we usually do is we kind of sit back and wait even longer, and then this is where you start to feel like I wasted all this time.
Right. And unfortunately, because I was talking to somebody the other day about, they was, dating somebody for 2 years. And I asked her, well, what happened this, that, and the third? And I said, well, did you see some of those signs early on? Right. I saw them at 6 months. I sure did. But I stayed around. Right. Because I thought things would change.
And time is a very real metric for us as women. So... And I think in that perspective, that's where men are not looking at it from the women's lens, right? Because the clock is ticking, ticking, for whatever that may be, whether it's the marriage, whether it's children, whether it's like age plays a very big role for us that it does not play for men. They don't have to worry about age. They don't have to think that they're, no longer hot at 50. At 50, you all of a sudden got a whole new crop of women to choose from. You know what I'm saying? Whereas women, and we have to be honest with ourselves, because sometimes we're kind of like, this 50 is the new 40 and I'm just as hot as the 20s. We are not.
Right.
I may be cute. I might be cute in my own right. I might still look good for my age, but we are not competing with the 20s.
Yes.
So with that being said, men really do lose sight of how important time is to women. So I think with that, when we're talking about being able to look from both sides, men don't truly feel like they're wasting our time. They don't think of time in the way that we're thinking of time.
Right.
Like, time is heavy for us.
Right.
It is absolutely not heavy for them. If for some reason things don't work out with this 2-year situation, they can very easily move on to another, whatever. Let's say when he met you, you was 28, and now you're 30, and you're kind of like, oh my God, I'm 30.
Yeah.
He can go find another 28.
Right.
He can go find another 26.
Yeah.
You are sitting here looking back at the time like, damn it.
Yep. And that's, again, why
I
you got to
can't
have
get those 2 years back.
Got to have those conversations.
And I definitely agree with you about having the conversations, but now you have to kind of figure out when is it appropriate to have those conversations? Because you mentioned earlier about if he's not doing this by 6 months, or he's not doing that by this time frame. Men feel like I shouldn't be held to these time frames, but in my years of knowing and even talking to other men, and even with my husband, they know early.
They do.
They know early.
They do.
They know early on if they think that you are not even the one, because they don't even look at it that way.
Exactly.
They know early whether or not they think that you are potential.
They put women in categories.
Wife.
Yes. They know.
So,
I was talking to a guy the other day who said, I know if this girl's going to be a 15-minute, a day, a week, a month.
They absolutely
know.
How do we know? That's the question. So how do women figure out how the man is categorizing them? Because we believe that we are in one category and they believe that we're in another.
It would be based on how they treat you. What are their actions? And a lot of times we get so caught up in I really like him that our mental or our perception is a bit skewed in the situation, because they say love is blind. That's for real because you really the chemicals in your brain really do change when you in love with somebody, and so your judgment is off. That's why if you are talking to your friend about your husband and like, man, this is not really happening, y'all. This is hypothetical.
It might,
but you just like, I can't stand him. He this, that, and the third. And your friend like, girl, just leave then. Like, you ain't got to put up with that. But you're like, but no, I love him. Right. Like, your friend is going to view it differently because she's not in love with him.
Yeah, it's happened. No. Which is a whole nother conversation about the ebbs and flows of marriages, relationships.
Right, that is a totally different conversation. Yes,
it is very possible that I could have had a conversation with my best friend saying, I hate him, I want to leave him. And at the same time, I'm like, oh man, we've been doing so good.
We've been doing so good.
So,
yes, exactly. But our perception sometimes changes. But again, it goes back to the being honest with ourselves. And even or having somebody like a coach who could say, maybe that's not okay.
Right.
That's why having a coach or somebody who you can talk to, but you also got to listen to them too, that is being honest with you and looking out for your best interest. Because there can be some people who ain't looking out for your best interest, but having a support that can tell you, all right, girl, I don't think this is okay. But some people, they still gonna do what they want to do.
I also think that our perception of ourselves is clouding what we believe his perception of us should be.
Yes.
So if I believe that I'm wife material, I believe I should be wife material to any man that I meet. And the reality is that not every man is going to view you the same way, even if you have all these what you believe to be wife credentials.
Yeah.
And again, in terms of the lens that we're looking through, men don't think that way. And a lot of men are not even thinking I'm husband material.
Right.
If we're being honest, they're not sitting here saying,
they're not.
I'm husband material. You should want to marry me.
I don't think I've ever seen
rare that
man
happens,
say that. Yes,
right?
Yes.
So he's not always going to see, even if you are capable of being a wife, because there are plenty of women who have some of the qualities that they believe. And again, this is all relative, because unless we are lesbians, we don't know what men are looking for in wives. You know what I mean? Like, we are thinking what we think they should want.
Yes.
But the reality is that, which is how what we were talking about that day, is how a man can marry a woman who work in the Piggly Wiggly, and you're looking like, hey,
I got this and the third.
I got all these things.
Yeah.
How could he marry her?
Yeah.
Because what you believed he was looking for in a wife wasn't what he was looking for in a wife.
Right.
And that I think too, as women, when we start to compare ourselves, that doesn't have any bearing on that woman. She's not a less than woman because she doesn't have the things that you have.
Yeah.
He was not looking for that in a wife.
Yes.
And how do we reconcile that as women? Especially, I don't know, you can tell me a little bit more about who your client base is, but if we're educated, most of us educated women definitely believe this list of things that we've accumulated makes us stronger potential mates.
Yes. And unfortunately, it has nothing to do with that.
Say what now?
Unfortunately.
What?
Yes. Unfortunately. I know. I hate it. They, going back to what you said, men are very simple. They are. But at the same time, when it comes to the degrees and all that, I've spoken to a ton of men. They don't care about that.
And women don't understand why they don't care.
Because to them, it's not about what you're able to accomplish. Like, it's nice, as if y'all.
You sound like them. That's what men say. They're like, it's nice. I mean, if she got it,
I don't sound like a man. but that's the stuff that I be hearing them say. Like, it's
cool
nice.
if she got one of those.
Yeah, but they don't really care. They care about the character of a person. And unfortunately, you can't get the degree in character.
Well, partially you can, because that's what they're judging you on. So what you said,
okay, yes,
character is one
the
part of it.
character.
Whether or not they can see you raising their children is another part of it.
Yes. They want to know if you can be their peace. Mm-hmm. If you're someone who's
they hate that. They hate that phrase, girl. We're gonna have to find another way to say it.
My bad, y'all. My bad.
Set the whole.
I'm just telling you what the men done told me. Okay, that's what they. This is what I heard.
Peace is such a triggering.
But I've heard that in so many ways, and I've heard it and tried to understand it.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, oh Lord, here they go. But what I've heard from men.
Mm-hmm. It's too late. You already sided with them now.
Hey. But a lot of men just want somebody that's gonna listen to them, and they want to feel safe, and they want somebody who is going to encourage them. They don't want.
Tell them you did good, baby.
Yes, they love that.
Did that real good, baby.
They love they stroke the ego. Stroke the ego, okay? And it's not for every man either.
Yeah,
it's not for every man. Mm-hmm. And I know that's the other thing when it comes to these men is like, y'all need to submit. It's like, sir, I don't know you. Why would I submit to you? I don't know you from Adam. Like, come on now. But it's about that person that you end up being with for real. Because you don't want to just just do it to everybody.
Yeah.
Because for some reason they can detect that too, that vulnerability when you are that type of person to every man. Right. But that's what they want. They just want somebody who is willing to listen to them, smiling at them. Like I've gone on dates and people be like, "Oh my God, you just don't understand. You a rare gem out here." I'm like, I ain't do nothing but listen and smile.
Right,
is that all it takes?
That is all
Jesus.
it takes.
Y'all so easy.
They are easy in so many ways. They're so complicated and simple at the same time. And I think. Again, going back to how women minds work, we have all these things popping off in our minds at the same time. So we're judging things from a woman's lens.
Yes.
And there's so many things about men that are very simplistic, but then men struggle because while we can be very simple but complex as well. So just simple things so there was a post floating around about getting a woman flowers and they're like, oh, what's the difference? They die and all those things. And it's not about that. It's not about the fact that the flowers don't last for more than 5-7 days. That's a simple gesture. Yeah. It's very simple, but it means a lot. So just as men have simple things that mean a lot to them, women have very simple things that mean a lot to them. So let's talk about those things. So flowers is one. There's some women that are not flower women, right? But there are simple gestures that mean a lot to women that shows this level of care. And something that you mentioned earlier about the things that men do or how they treat you. Yeah. And I think sometimes we confuse generosity with good treatment. Right. So he's buying you bags or he's,
I love bombing.
Right. So they're doing things that are, especially if he has the means to do it. So if he has money, the money is not hard to come by to do these nice things for you.
Yeah.
What are the things that he's doing that show care?
Yes.
And what are examples of that?
Well, I think it would be about how you guys get to know each other. Because like you said, some women do like flowers and some women don't. But if I've taken the time out to explore you and really get to know you, then I know she don't even like flowers. So why would I do that? Because now she's going to be like, I told this, I did not like flowers.
And we're thinking that, and they don't know that we're thinking that.
Exactly.
So he thinks he's racking up the points by bringing flowers, and every single time you're like, I hate flowers. How many times have I told him that?
Right. So it's all about that one-on-one. This is why I do some of the stuff on social media gets on my nerves because it's so generalized. Like you said, it's very one way of doing it. But in reality, it's all about getting to know that particular person because everybody likes different things. So it was one guy that was trying to date me, and he was like, "Oh, I was about to."
He's like,
"Trying to date me, girl," and he was like, "I was about to buy you tickets to such and such." You don't even know if I like that artist. Why would you buy that for me? Because a lot of times men, when they're doing that, it's a way to manipulate you. Because I'm just trying to throw stuff at you.
Right. No. Or they didn't get to know you and they think all girls
like it.
So
and
let
I'm
me
like,
get that too.
this is doing nothing for me. I'm not impressed.
Right.
And then it was like, oh dang, I feel like every time I'm around you, you grading me.
Right.
Well, because you ain't getting to know me.
Right.
That's why.
Right.
Because you just throwing stuff.
So let's wrap with that last X of your 3 X's.
Experience. Yes. So experience is what you guys do together. When one thing that I would teach my clients, my therapy clients, is about mindfulness, and that's being present in the moment. So when you have these experiences with a person, it is supposed to bond you guys even more together. But that's if you're really in the moment, not in your head trying to figure out, okay, what did I say? Did I say this wrong? Did he say that? And a lot of times we get into our own heads about what our expectations of another person without genuinely experiencing that person, experiencing that moment.
Experiencing, and what you just mentioned was experiencing the things that you all are learning that you like to do together.
Yes,
So
exactly.
if I'm experiencing something with you that I don't really want to do.
Right.
It's going to be not a good experience.
Right, exactly. Because you got men out here that'll say, I'm going to fly you out to so-and-so. Why would you do that? You don't know that girl. And then you get mad when she don't want to give you nothing in return. Well,
not nothing. She don't want to give you
right. Right. She trying to get, but you just shot in the dark and missed. And now you mad. Because again, you didn't take the time to explore. You didn't take the time to examine. And you just jumped straight to experience, the wrong experience at that, because you're trying to fly me out to God knows where.
Flued out.
Right. When you, and then now you're mad because you spent all this money. Didn't nobody tell you to do all that? But you chose to do that, and the girls be out here like, I'm going to take a free trip.
Right. Which goes back to what I was saying about the generosity does not equal care.
Yes, exactly.
So yes, generosity is nice, but as women, because again, some parts of this is tied to the providing.
Yeah.
Generosity does not equal care.
Yes.
And all of those things are tied into what you were just saying, because if you're examining, exploring, and experiencing, you would put the care into these things and these portions of it, and you wouldn't just, again, throw some money at it from a generosity standpoint, because you're thinking all women want to be taken care of. They all want to be provided for. And for every woman, providing and provision means different things.
Right.
And if you're not taking the time to go through the 3 X's that was explained here by Janelle Darcy with Carcentric, you will just be throwing money at these dates. And to be honest, going way back to how all of this conversation, men have started to pull back, saying that they don't want to spend on dates, right?
Yep.
And I think women have gotten frustrated because they're saying, well, if I'm going to take the time to get dressed and do all these things, and I want a real date. And there's all these disconnects that are happening, because a real date does not necessarily require spending big loads of money.
Right.
It requires the 3 X's.
Yep. Exactly.
It requires those 3 X's. It requires you to put some care into learning who I am and what matters to me. And of course, we all enjoy a $200 dinner.
I mean, yes. Eventually, we I mean, because in the beginning, with that first date, it's all about explore. And if you spending $200 at a fancy restaurant, or trying to take me out to this to impress me, that's where things start to get a little convoluted, because it's not really about me. It's about me just trying to impress you. Right. Which when it comes to impressing, you're bringing your impersonator out. Because that's not really, sometimes a lot of these men, that's not really who they are. They're just trying to impress you. Right. And so then you create this standard. I mean, they've created a standard. And then a lot of men can't keep up with that standard.
And on the flip side of that, the woman is with her impersonator, because now you showed up,
and
you're fully done up, fully dolled up. You got your what are these things called? You snatch yourself all the way out. Yes, you lifted up your face. You did all these things. Yes, and both of you are coming to this date as impersonators.
Correct. Yep.
And then you're wondering what happened. Why did this go left or whatever? So while I do understand people not wanting to do the whole quote unquote coffee date because it seems cliche, but there is a real big disconnect between, and again, it's like everything is so far apart in this world of dating.
Yeah.
You don't want to do the $200 dinner, but I'm not willing to meet you in the park.
Right.
I don't want to.
right.
I don't want to do the 50-50, but I also don't want, so
Yes.
where do we start to find some common ground?
That is the hard part, because I'm all for just doing something very, very simple, especially that first day. Because for me personally, I don't mind going to dinner. To me, it doesn't matter where. It's about the experience that we have and what I'm hearing you say, and if you are actually going to follow through with those things. That's, to me, is what's most important, that first day. And then, honestly, what makes it easier for a man, honestly, if they keep it very simple that first day, the only thing they can do is go up after that. I mean, when they start going down, now you're going to be like, all right, now.
So
but
do you say for men that if it's a woman who is kind of insisting that they're not wanting to go on any type of date that does not involve like a true dinner, dining experience, should he now, because we've talked about the boundaries that women should kind of create for themselves. Should men be creating these boundaries? And I'm not saying don't you men go out here and start telling these women you ain't taking them on a date, but
right.
Should those be flags to men that says this woman has some expectations that are probably, and I don't want to say dinner is unreasonable, but you understand what I'm saying about what level of dinner. If we go out to a local place and maybe we go to a tapas bar, maybe we do something like that. And it's kind of like the music is flowing. We're having a, cocktail or two and a couple of, you share a lamb chop.
Right, exactly.
A lollipop lamb chop, and we get to know, we talk to each other. But if we're talking about going to the highest of the height, then that's a different conversation.
Right, exactly.
So for men, should this be a flag to any man who is saying he's looking to do the 3 X's and she's saying, I don't want your 3 X's, you need to take me to dinner? Should he be that should be a flag to him?
Or maybe it's just not the woman for him.
I mean, same kind of, should he be saying to himself, because sometimes men also are doing things that they probably should know that I shouldn't be moving forward with this situation because it's probably not going to work out. So in asking earlier your friend or whomever you were talking to, like, did you see these signs in the first 6 months? Is this a sign of something that a man should say?
Yeah. Why not? Because you're looking for a particular person that may in some way match your lifestyle or match what your needs or whatever, or your wants or whatever. And if somebody's already off top not doing it, it's kind of like, why waste my time?
Right. So what I will say, and I will also kind of wrap up with this, right? But I think that one of the beauties of what women bring to men is them wanting to step up.
Right. So they can.
Right.
They absolutely can. Right. But I'm talking about first dates. But after that first date, absolutely. It is like, okay, well, we've done the exploration. I'm feeling you a little bit. We can now do X, Y, and Z or whatever. And I think that will make a difference because it's, and I'm when it comes to the men, and I get it because if I'm trying to date women and they're all requiring to be taken on these fancy dates, that's a lot of money being spent off rip. But if there may be no connection with that person. But if I actually meet you, we sit down, we talk, there is a connection. Oh, okay. Now we can, try to, advance this a little bit more.
So I do real estate, right? And I have sometimes some boyfriends and girlfriends that are trying to buy houses together. What do you have to say?
Well, I mean, it's another conversation, but that is another conversation.
It's not a good rapping conversation.
Right.
Through your whole
yes.
What you think about this, huh, girl? Okay, she's not gonna answer that question. We have Janelle Dawsey here from Presscentric. It was a lot of fun. Tell them how to get in contact with you.
You can follow me on Instagram at Janelle Dawsey. That's JANELLE DAWSEY. That's probably the best way to get in contact with me. But if you want, you can email me as well at hello@janelledawsey.com.
And you also mentioned that you have a love quiz.
Yes, I have a love quiz. So it's what's your romantic type? Do you have something to put it in the bio or something?
I am. I'm gonna add it to the I'm gonna add it to the link, and I'll also add it to the video when we edit it.
Okay, good. So it's a love type test. It's 6 different categories. Based on my experience from talking to people in my therapy practice, particularly, I was starting to notice that people were kind of falling into these same kind of categories when it came to how they show love. Mm-hmm. So one is the charismatic type. That one is kind of the one who kind of head in the rainbows and the clouds about, I the poster child for love. Like, I just love. Yeah, right. Romeo and Juliet. But a lot of times they miss a lot of red flags. Mm-hmm. Then you have the choosy type, who is similar to that, except that they have probably experienced some type of hurt or abandonment. And so they're very hesitant in terms of their decision making. Then you have the calculated type. The calculated type is very much like, okay, a lot of men fall into this category of like, I am looking for this particular type of person. They're very calculated. They're the ones that I think attract a lot of women because they are such bosses and they really, project that out there, but they're very particular in who they want to be with. So they're like, they take a while before they like make a decision with who they end up going with. Then you have the commander type. The commander type, they love hard. They love very, very hard, and it can be misinterpreted as that controlling type. But they're in their hearts, they really want to love and they really give. But a lot of times it ends up being misinterpreted later on down the line. Then you have the chill type. The chill type is very chill. They kind of go with the flow. They don't want no problems. A lot of women meeting them. We just chilling. we just be chilling. We just chilling. But a lot of times they don't speak up for what they need. And then last one is the compliant type. That type wants to come across as very perfectionistic to their partners. They want to be everything for their partners. They want to be perfect for them. But again, they end up neglecting their own needs and not communicating with their partners about what is, and they end up hiding a lot of things about themselves because they don't take that
and it makes them sick.
Yeah.
It makes them sick. Janelle Darcy, everybody, Centric, dating coach. There's a whole lot of you out there that probably need her services. So go check her out on Janelle Darcy on Instagram. And thank you guys for watching Slay Your Day. We appreciate you. Bye.
Bye-bye.